What up? What up? What up? What up? How's everybody doing today? Welcome aboard the Soul Train. For the next 2 hours, I'm going to be your host. My name is Matt, the Grass Factor. Martin! Sorry, I've been MIA. I've been on the road, doing road things, whatever that entails. Lots of road things. Ugh. Glad to be home. I tell you what, you spend enough time in the car by yourself just listening to your own head, you're going to find out whether or not you like yourself or you don't like yourself. But you know what? I'm home. Glad to be home. It was good to see the kids. It's always fun to see their reaction after you've been gone for a long time and you come back. The part of being gone for the long time isn't necessarily fun, but when you come back and you get to see that's always a good time, right? It's funny. I got in pretty late. I don't know. I guess it was real late. It was early this morning. And when my son woke up, the first thing he did was come check to see if I was home. And I was. And it was great. And it felt awesome. And it made me happy. But boy, all kinds of fun things taking place on the front end and back end. I don't think it's any secret at this point as far as what's taking place. Kind of a positive thing that's going on is that, next year, as far as the granular fertilizer production, all that's going to be totally different than what we're used to this year. And part of it that's going to be going on is that as the way this has to take place, there's so many different nuances, and I'm not a business expert. I'm not a business attorney. I'm not a business accountant, but effectively, Carbon Earth will be no more. When we finish everything taking place, it will no longer be as Carbon Earth. It will be as a brand new company. And that's exciting. It's a little bit of a positive and negative, right? It's like from a positive standpoint, it's a nice rebirth, reapproach to everything. In the negative, it's everything you put into emotionally and time-wise into Carbon Earth is now basically defunct. If anybody is emailing me at my Carbon Earth email address, I had a couple of people reach out to me and said they had been emailing me. I do not have access to my Carbon Earth email anymore. So that is no longer effective. In fact, I've been out of it now for almost a month. So if you would like to reach me, always thegrassfactor@gmail.com is the easiest way. You can go to thegrassfactor.net. It's got a contact form that'll go direct to me. Or you can send it to matt@thegrassfactor.net. All of those make their way back to me. So a couple of different options there. But if you're reaching out to me at my Carbon Earth email, it is dead and gone, dead and gone, dead and gone. Oh! I think that was an old R&B song, wasn't it? Something like that. So, like I said, with all that, hey. Hi! Also, another thing here, we're doing a little bit of multi-stream. So, depending on where you are, if you want to watch video, you can head over to facebook.com/The Grass Factor, and you're going to see I've got live video going there. If you're into Twitch, you can head over to twitch.tv/The Grass Factor. You'll see me there. And of course, if you're into the old YouTube thing, you can head over to YouTube /C/The Grass Factor, and that link will take you there. Or, of course, you can just go to thegrassfactor.net and you'll have a visual stream there, too. Also, on less of a delay, which is always a positive. What's up, Cow Ben? Look at this. I'm looking at some names here that are watching the live video. Jeremy Lagazzi! Moxie is in the house. Cheers, good sir. What's up, Lawn Care Monster? It was good meeting you the other day. That was a pleasant surprise. We got to get all that worked out. What is going on with this? I got some weird back end things going on. Oh, never mind. That was just me. No surprise there. KBG King, nothing is changing as far as like what we're doing. But we are it's basically like a transfer of ownership kind of deal. There's a deal in place that we're working on, and just so that way we can scale our production. X Screen isn't going anywhere. X Screen, all the products are still going to be there. It's just literally going to be a new name. Still kind of back and forth. We got an idea of what that new name is, and I'm not exactly. I don't want to give it away yet. And all this is taking place, of course, because we're on a 12-hour time difference. Our original investors are on the other side of the planet, 12-hour time difference. So a lot of times these things are being worked on in the middle of the night, of course, across Zoom too. So it's a long, slow, drawn out type deal. It's not like you can go sit in a room, lock the doors, and just hammer out a bunch of details. That flexibility, that availability is not there. So that's where we are. Hey. So like I said, if you try and email me there, I thought I was going to be getting it back, but I'm not going to get it back. I was able to harvest all my contacts out of there, so I at least have your contacts. So, there you go. Lawn Care Monster, that's funny. Sure, I said, well, we got lots of Humic hotlines here. I know Kenny has been on an absolute tear with his Humic hotline stuff. I mean, boy, he's been all kinds of fired up about it, hasn't he? And but I gotta say, everything he has made has been incredibly funny, like real funny. I'm going back and reviewing some of the ones he sent me, and they are legitimately funny. I'm pretty impressed with them. One of the other things too is actually, let me see this. Yeah. Making sure I didn't screw that up. One of the things I've been looking at is disease modeling, right? And because this is kind of the odd thing about lawn care in general, right? Or turfgrass management as a science. Turfgrass management as a science, my whole approach to this is bring science back to agronomy, right? That's why I like doing the that's why I like doing the whiteboard videos, right? To take everything from purely a scientific perspective to some really non-negotiable good starting points, right? Now, there's a lot of flair, what I'm going to refer to as flair in lawn care, where you make these individual judgment calls, or something works for you one time and then it becomes a tool in the toolbox, or all these quirks, right? And everybody's got their own quirks. It doesn't matter if you're sanding wood or you're a welder. You got your own methodology that you employ to get the job done. And it's not to say one way is right or wrong or the other, but kind of there's some non-negotiable points too, kind of like when you're welding, right? You can't have a faulty weld be passed through and expect it to be successful. It just doesn't work that way. Mom is sharing my strength. Thanks, Mom. Mom always taking care of me. I never have to worry about it. I always got at least one listener. Thank you, Mom. So everybody has this flair, but I want to talk about at least the non-negotiable parts, right? And that's what I like to uncover with these things is look at it from a flair perspective and then narrow down to at least the point that's non-negotiable. And then you can kind of fill in your own gaps on how you want to get there. And in that same vein, with disease prediction, disease modeling, of course, there's the Smith-Kearns model for a prediction of the development of dollar spot disease. And there's also some other kind of modeling ideas, modeling algorithms that are out there for brown patch and Pythium, and particularly I came across another one for gray leaf spot, and also came across another one for leaf spot, helmintosporium, but that was more geared towards agriculture than it was lawn care. And I thought, wouldn't that be cool to kind of aggregate all this and have it as a platform to give you kind of real-time monitoring on these types of things? There's a lot that goes into it. There is a lot of there's a lot of math involved. There's a lot of big math that's a little bit above my pay grade, and I haven't been able to piece it all together. I wouldn't say anything is outside of the realm of like some advanced algebra or anything, but just some pretty interesting things with all kinds of different tables and matrices and just different stuff I haven't looked at since probably like junior year of high school. I'm used to solving for X, not some of the characters I've been seeing in these algorithms. I'm going to take a break. When we come back, let's go ahead and start answering some questions and see what we can figure out. If you got a question, I'll tell you a real easy thing that you can do. You can send me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. Do you have a soil test you want analyzed? I got all these renovations taking place. I hope lots of people have been doing soil tests. If you want me to take a look at the soil test, you can send it to thegrassfactor@gmail.com. You can shoot it over to over on Facebook, FaceCrack. You can send it to me over there. However you want to get it to me, you can get it to me, and we can go over it on air right now, and see what we can unpack about it. Of course, I got a few emails I want to go ahead and discuss too while we're doing these things. But first, we're going to take a break. You're listening to the only live radio station in the country dedicated to an entire industry. Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Every Wednesday night.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Hump Night.
Tonight!
With The Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turf's Up Radio.
Hump day?
Do we have to put up with this?
The Rock! The hot place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turf's Up Radio. Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey everybody, this is Hecubus from the Nightcap. I'm just sitting here relaxing within the vault with my friends and a tasty, tasty pint. You should stop by and listen in sometime. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, live only on Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Hey everybody, it's Brooke Ford, host of The Green Veteran here on Turf's Up Radio. Be sure to check me out every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern. You're going to hear some great one-on-one interviews with green industry professionals. We're going to talk about best business practices, highlight innovative products, and also provide some insight into some new emerging technologies in the field. That's The Green Veteran, airing each Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And remember, Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
We're back. Look at this shirt. Shout out to John Jastrzebski, Ace of Spades Lawn Care up in Barnegat, New Jersey. New Jersey! All right, so I had a couple questions here, and I thought we'd kind of talk about things here. John Lowe said, you did a Nutsedge pre-emergent video, and my question is can I just use Echelon throughout the growing season for cool season turf without additional prodiamine apps? Yeah, so kinda. So let's look at the active ingredients that are in the product called Echelon. Echelon is a combination of what two active ingredients? That would be prodiamine and let me open up my cheat sheet here. Roll your own cheat sheet. That would be a combination of prodiamine and sulfentrazone, right? And okay, let me do this, and that is that. There. Okay. Oh man, come on. So and I was gonna get an idea of what the ratio was to that, and I'm trying to find where I put it here. I've got it somewhere. Yes. The roll your own database. Okay. And then I've got, let me see, Echelon. Okay. So this is actually the way that kind of looks if you were to roll your own Echelon, right? So it would be roughly 5.5 ounces. Say you're running an 8 ounce per acre rate of Echelon. It would be approximately 5.5 ounces per acre of prodiamine and 2.6 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone. Now, the trick to sulfentrazone is to use... is now hosting my stream. One of you, a beautiful gamer. I don't know what that is, but okay. The trick is to get down a total of 12 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone, however you choose to do that. But remember, especially when you're dealing with cool season turf, especially tall fescue, anything over 4 ounces per acre is going to be incredibly hard on the grass, right? So ideally, the way to do that is to do 3 applications at 4 ounces per acre on a 30-day interval, right? And that would be the best way to go about it. So do you have to use Echelon? No, you don't. You can spray your own prodiamine and add 4 ounces per acre. Say you're doing your second pre-emergent application, and you want to time this closer to the emergence of nutsedge. That's kind of a caveat there. You want to do it closer to when you are going to be applying. Closer to when you're going to see the emergence of nutsedge, right? So maybe your second application of pre-emergent that you're putting down, assuming you're running a split app of prodiamine, right? So you're making your second interval on your split app of prodiamine. Then it may be more conducive for you to add in something like 4 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone in that application. Then as you make your third application, go ahead and make a blanket application of 4 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone. And then as you make your fourth application, make sure you're applying 4 ounces per acre of sulfentrazone as a blanket application. If you do that, that will act as a pre-emergent. Now, if you're running an 8 ounce per acre, oh, that's you, Jason Trailer. So if you are if you're using sulfentrazone, you've got to math your way into that, right? Because here, if you're running an 8 ounce per acre, the low rate of Echelon, then you're only applying, 2.65 ounces of sulfentrazone. So then you've got to math in, and you probably need to do at that point, roughly 5 ounces per acre and then 5 ounces per acre to get down that total of 12 ounces per acre. Remember, that is the magic number, 12 ounces per acre. Anything less than that, and then you're not really capitalizing on the full benefits in terms of preventative, and this, I use that term loosely, but as max, the most amount of residual potential out of that herbicide occurs at 12 ounces per acre. So yes, Echelon can be the tool in your toolbox to help you get to that 12 ounces per acre, Or if you want to save an absurd amount of money, so we'll say roughly 26%, assuming you're applying the low rate of Echelon, and you're only going to save more at higher rates of Echelon. So we'll say at higher rates, you're going to be, I promise you, higher than 26% savings, because you have more flexibility of your prodiamine rate too, right? So if you're rolling your own prodiamine, and rolling your own dismiss and you know getting a generic sulfentrazone 4L to apply, I mean 26% is on the low end of what you're saying. This is probably gonna be closer to like 33, 35. And the way I pulled these prices was I just was going straight off a consumer price. I'm not even going through a distributor here, so this is probably not even that accurate as far as how much you would actually be paying. This is definitely on the high end of what these herbicides cost. So in that same vein, can you go with Echelon? Yes. I don't prefer Echelon because I don't have control over the individual inputs. It's not my favorite thing to go out with if my objective is nutsedge prevention or staying ahead of nutsedge establishment, right? It just doesn't cut it for me. I need that added layer of flexibility. Now, of course, Echelon has multiple rates, right? So you can go all the way up to 24 ounces per acre or 20 ounces per acre or 16 ounces per acre or whatever the case may be. You can kind of pick your poison there on how you want to get it done. But the part you have to understand as an applicator is you've got to understand what each of those rates is actually going to be giving you in terms of the amount of sulfentrazone active ingredient that's actually going down. So if you're doing a single application of 24 ounces per acre, then you're getting down 8 ounces of sulfentrazone and 16 ounces of prodiamine, right, per acre. So that tells you in that particular instance right there that I need, and you have to math this out. This isn't posted on the label to tell you this. You are actually required to go in and do the math to calculate this, to understand what your balance is to get to that 12 ounces per acre. So when you look at this and you math it out and you're at 24 ounces per acre and you've got 8 ounces of sulfentrazone going down, that tells you that you need to follow that up with an additional blanket application of 4 ounces per acre sulfentrazone to hit your target per acre rate to give you your best chance possible in terms of actual nutsedge prevention. Failing to do this will be a failure in the length of time at which it could actually provide you in keeping your nutsedge in a non-visible state. And then you start to question yourself and your sanity because you spent 26% more money trying to get a grip on this, and it did for a short period of time, but it wasn't great. When chances are, from a seasonality perspective, you may have been able to gather seasonal control if you just would have applied it correctly, if you had control over each individual input, if you knew what your target amounts getting down were actually supposed to be. So we'll kind of caveat and cut that out, and you understand that you get down the prodiamine rate you need to get down. I'm not going to dictate that to you. Boy, brr. I'm running on very little sleep. I have been driving a minimum of 9 hours a day since Thursday, and I am whacked out. So you get down whatever prodiamine rate you need to get down. That's up to you to decide. You figure it out. You've got your reseeding windows and all that you have to take into consideration. You pick your poison there. But when it comes to the quote-unquote prevention of nutsedge, that magic number is 12 ounces per acre. And however you choose to get there, I would steer you towards 3 application of 4 ounces per acre. That's just my opinion. This is where you kind of skin the cat and get different answers, right? Could you run 2 ounces of 6 ounces per acre? Yes. You could do 2 apps at 6 ounces per acre, but I'm going to tell you right now, when it burns your grass, don't come back to me and be like, I don't know what happened. I sprayed my sulfentrazone and my grass turned brown. What happened? Have you ever seen this before? Yes. And this is my warning to you right now. 100%, without a doubt, it will happen. It just happens. That's all. Next question here. Eric E. said, what would you recommend if I'm low on phosphorus, surplus on potassium, and a pH of 7.9? I'd love to get some MAP, but that's hard as a homeowner. Cool season grass and need 1.8 pounds of phosphorus per 1,000 next year. You need 1.8 pounds of phosphorus per 1,000 next year in addition to what? Because how much phosphorus you actually need is a direct response to how much nitrogen you're applying. So I don't know if your soil test is recommending you apply 1.8 pounds of P. Is that 1.8 pounds of P2O5 or is that 1.8 pounds of P? Because those are two totally different answers. If we're talking about P2O5, that'd be 1.8 times 2.2, basically. So realistically, you need almost 4 pounds of actual phosphorus 4 pounds of actual phosphorus that you need to apply. So number one, I need to know, is it P2O5 or is it actual P? Because those are two totally different numbers. When you are applying a fertilizer that contains phosphorus, it is going to report the amount you're applying on the bag as pounds of P2O5. The problem is that a lot of times your soil test is telling you what you need or what you currently have in the soil in terms of pounds of actual P. To convert pounds of actual P to P2O5, you would multiply it times 2.2. So if it says you need 1.8 pounds of actual P, that means you need to apply 3.96 pounds per 1,000 of P2O5. So I don't quite have enough I don't have enough information there to answer that question. In general, yes. Could you go out with something like MAP? Yes. But in terms of rate, I don't know what that is. Because I don't know how much nitrogen you're going to be applying over the next season, and I don't know where that recommendation of 1.8 pounds of P is. If it is, that sounds more like 3.96 pounds of P2O5, which all of a sudden now you're applying somewhere closer to like 8 pounds per 1,000 of actual MAP. So you see how I got many different numbers there that are kind of all streaming through on different ways. Okay, that is a completely different one there. So Eric E., give me a little bit more information, and then we can kind of dive deeper into that. But it does, a product like MAP would work there. The other thing too, at a pH of 7.9. I would primarily be running ammonium sulfate as my nitrogen source. And this is one where you've got to consider on how to lower your pH. You would be so impressed with the quality of your grass as you brought that pH down to 6.5, right? So however you choose to get there at a 7.9, if you're running ammonium sulfate and elemental sulfur, you're kind of right on the line. You may want to consider applications of citric acid. So the other thing I would really be focused on there is definitely reducing my soil pH. So that is per the Pace Turf Tool. Oh, okay. So that's based off your nitrogen demand. You need 1.8 pounds of P, right? But you're already deficient. You're currently deficient in P, or you're low in P, I guess is what you're saying. So if that's the case, so that's good. That's P2O5. That tells me everything I need to know. If you're currently deficient, I guess, are you saying that's nutrient removal plus MLSN, what you're trying to target there in terms of ppm? Because we can convert ppm over to pounds per acre, and that would kind of give you a better piece of information there that you can work with. But yeah, if you're and I know you say you have a surplus in K, you can't really hurt anything by continuing to apply K. And here's the other thing: if you have a real high cation exchange capacity, at some point it can kind of lock away your available potassium. So again, I'm kind of steering back towards if you can get. Well, I tell you, I've got a product called X-Start that would be perfect for this scenario because, high P, relatively low potassium. But really, you can find other things out there like that. So you could, do in theory right here, like an 18-24-12 would be perfectly fine. 18-18-8, I've seen one of those. That would be perfectly fine. But again, you do want to look for the phosphorus source as MAP. That would be the most protected form of phosphorus you could apply at a pH of 7.9. And so, yeah, there you go. Look at Ray chiming in. He said, keep it simple. Apply 111. And you can do that too. Totally. You can totally do that. There's no problem with that. Again, surplus potassium is relatively easy to deal with because you get a little bit of extra rainfall and you're losing a lot of that surplus potassium. So, and potassium is not a big contributor to pollution. It's not a contributor to pollution. So if you have a little bit of excess potassium, everything's going to be A-okay. All right, real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, let's continue on. I'm getting all kinds of soil tests and all other stuff being sent in over here. You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, do you know what time it is? That's right, it's time for Turfs Up Radio. Now you can catch us streaming live 24/7 with pro talk, pro tips, and pro interviews. Simply visit turfsupradio.com.
Playing the best music.
Hands down and dirty. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio.
Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, Turfs Up Radio fans, do you know what time it is? That's right, it's time for Turfs Up Radio. Now you can catch us streaming live 24/7 with pro talk, pro tips, and pro interviews. Simply visit turfsupradio.com.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process? Then it's time you checked out the GeoRipper 616. It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned GeoRipper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the GeoRipper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
All right, we're back. Next question. DA said, we've been using Armament from Foliar Pack on our fertilizer applications. Could the soil reach a saturation point, no longer respond to the application of Armament? And, that is a great question because nobody knows. Because nobody knows what Armament is. It is a polymer right? It contains potassium acetate too, so some sort of acidic produced acetate based polymer. And what specifically is in it, how long it lasts, what exactly it does, all of that is a bit of a mystery. And the only thing we can say is that it's a polymer. So and this deals with charges, which most polymers or even surfactants are going to work on charges, right? So negative and positive charges and all that fun stuff. It says it is biodegradable, so that tells me it doesn't last for a long period of time. It doesn't last forever. Eventually, it breaks down and goes away. It has a high molecular weight structure, so that means it's not going to be foliarly absorbed. It would not be able to make it through the leaf tissue. And it holds on to a large population of negative charges. So if it holds on to negatively charged things, so we're talking about cations, right? Our cations are going to be our big negative charges. So it's kind of like a temporary way to increase cation exchange capacity in some form or fashion, possibly, if indeed it does do these types of things. It unlocks the tied up nutrients that already exist in the soil. If this is an incredibly acidic material, I would say yes, that has a very high probability, but it has a pH of 7.2. So how it unlocks things, you can apply a polymer to the soil and it can encapsulate things, but how does that actually break apart an oxide or solubilize an oxide? That part is a bit of a mystery. That we're kind of asking science to do something that's non-scientific at that point. That's beyond the laws that we currently have in the world, right? So, maybe in this instance, what it does is that it holds water longer over a period of over a given volume of soil, and if you increase the amount of water there, the higher likelihood it is for the root to be able to secrete its exudates in order to be able to break apart those tied up nutrients, in order for them to become solubilized, in order for the plant to then be able to take it up. Possibly that could be the direction they're going with this. I don't know. I'm just going off what the sales sheet says here. It prevents nutrient to nutrient interactions and chemical changes in the spray tank in the soil. It's a polymer, so maybe it has a mild chelation like effect, and so that would prevent these interactions between like calcium and phosphorus. If you've ever taken we'll say you take ferrous sulfate and a liquid iron and you put it into a jug and then you add humic acid to it, you'll see it precipitate out, right? That is a nutrient interaction. Or you take calcium. You take a solution of calcium in whatever form you want to pick. EDTA would be a little bit difficult. We'll say calcium glucoheptanate, and you add a solution of potassium phosphate to that. You'll see it all fall out, right? That is a nutrient-to-nutrient interaction. And you would have to offer some sort of chelation there to prevent it, to keep those two from interacting with one another. That's why when you see a lot of these micronutrients that are in these big mixes, you'll see lots of EDTA or EDDHA chelations, because it protects them from nutrient to nutrient interaction. Again, it's completely biodegradable, so it doesn't last forever, and it can be used in high pH and hard water. So, I don't know. There's no information here that tells me about that. I guess my question would be: are you having a problem with it? If you're having a problem with it, we can try and figure out why you're having the problem with it, and we can try and figure that out by taking a look at the number of applications you've made over a given period of time, and the actual individual conditions you're facing wherever you are. DA, I don't know a whole lot about you or where you are, so it would be difficult for me to make a recommendation on this. But to me, it sounds like this is a polymer that has some chelating properties here, and that's what they're attempting to do by applying this material or coating it on the outside of fertilizer, right? And if you by coating this, you can offer just an added layer of a bit of protection, right? So yeah, that's just on the totally surface value here. I'm looking at the safety data sheet, the SDS right here, and the big thing is here is a proprietary formulation, but it does contain potassium acetate. I took a look at the label. The label doesn't tell me anything other than it's derived from potassium acetate, and it contains a polymer. I don't know the type of polymer. Is it a block polymer? Is it a copolymer? I mean, there's lots and lots of different potential polymers out there, and if we knew which one that could help us, and then I started looking at, well, let's look at individual types of polymers that are derived from potassium acetate. Now, I'm not really finding anything there. I'm seeing whether using potassium acetate as a drilling fluid in the oil industry, but it doesn't state what else is in it. This looks like potassium acetate has been proposed and successfully applied since 1986 as a more environmentally accepted to potassium chloride for drilling fluids. Okay, great. In addition, they're biodegradable, have low toxicity to aquatic organisms, display very little corrosiveness towards ferrous-based metals used in oilfield tubulars and ancillary hardware. However, drilling polymer muds and so this is potassium acetate is used to create this mud, right? And that's not going to be the same thing they're using in this particular product, I would say. So let's see, is used to precipitate dodecyl sulfate. What is that? Okay. So potassium acetate can be used to kind of coagulate and drop out one of our popular anionic surfactants like sodium lauryl sulfate, or dodecyl sulfate is another name for it there. So kind of interesting. It can have some play over in there. So it acts as a reagent, and it's got all these kind of different. And the way it's formed, for those of you that are wondering, is actually what you do is you take acetic acid, right, which is household vinegar, but you use a very, very what is the word I'm looking for? A very strong, right, non-diluted form of vinegar. And when you take this vinegar and you add KOH to it, that's an acid-base reaction, right? Because you've got a very acidic material, acetic acid, and a very basic material, potassium hydroxide. When you react those two, there's an exothermic reaction that takes place. So it exudes heat, and the byproduct of that reaction is potassium acetate. Potassium from potassium hydroxide, acetate from acetic acid. So there's your chemistry lesson on the day, right? What's up? Whoa! Look who's in here. Everybody say hey to the radio boss. Mr. Darren Grunner is in the house. What are you doing, DG? DG, are you with me? All right. Come on, Siren. That's too much Siren. Yeah, everybody say hey to Darren. And by the way, if you have any problems with me, feel free to report me to management. That would be Darren Grunner. You can send him an email at darren@turfsupradio.com and tell him exactly how many problems I cause on air. He loves to hear that feedback. I'm telling you, it gets him going in the morning. Real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, let's keep going on. Man, we got some real good questions coming in. So I thought, this is all great stuff. This is good stuff. So let's dive into it and see just how buck nasty we can get. You're listening to the only live radio station dedicated to an entire industry that is the green industry. Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
industry news, this is The Turn. Live from the Turfs Up Radio studios in Louisville, Kentucky, with coverage across the country and across the street, also across the room. Live from the Turfs Up Radio news desk, I'm Steve Anthony. In the news, Fairfax, Virginia. The Irrigation Association is offering its popular IA University courses virtually, November 30th through December 4th. IA University is the core curriculum for irrigation professionals. These classes are offered every year to teach the fundamental and practical skills necessary to design, install, or maintain an irrigation system, as well as the business skills to manage a small irrigation company. Normally offered on location during the annual Irrigation Show and Education Week, this year IA University courses are being offered via digital format during the same time as the originally scheduled 2020 Irrigation Show. This will provide individuals the opportunity to learn this valuable curriculum and earn CEUs from the convenience and safety of their home or office. IA University courses include real-world applications and current techniques, which make them more valuable and beneficial than a basic class. These in-depth courses help you upgrade your skills and knowledge, improve on-the-job productivity, and prepare for certification. Participants can choose from beginner, intermediate, and advanced courses in the following categories: agriculture, landscape, and golf, landscape, business basics, and pumps and soils. A free math tutorial will also be offered. The full schedule of courses and links to register are available at www.irrigation.org/IA University. Register now by November 25th to ensure that materials arrive prior to the class date. The IA is also offering a network of in-person paper and pencil certification exams following these courses, December 7th through the 18th. These exams and the IA University courses are sponsored by SiteOne Landscape Supply. For more information about this and other programs offered during Education Week, go to www.irrigationshow.org. I'm Steve Anthony for Turfs Up Radio News. Now, with your Turfs Up Radio Sports Report, here's Ryan Breda.
Hello, Turfs Up Radio. This is Ryan Breda, giving you today's sports report. The Los Angeles Dodgers have scratched Clayton Kershaw from his Game 2 start due to back spasms. Kershaw has not had back issues since his start back on opening day. Dodgers rookie Tony Gonsolin was slated to start against the Braves. In NFL news, the New York Jets are trying to trade Le'Veon Bell before the league's November 3rd trade deadline, according to the New York Daily News. Bell is reportedly unhappy with his role in head coach Adam Gase's offense, and both sides are intent on ending their tenure together. Bell has $6 million left on his contract for the 2020 season. And lastly, according to the New York Post, the New York Knicks are considering moving back in the NBA draft unless LaMelo Ball or James Wiseman falls to them at the 8th pick. The Knicks are interested in moving to the 12 to 15 pick range with the Orlando Magic as a potential suitor. That's it for the sports report. This is Ryan Breda reporting for Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station. Now, back to you, Steve.
Thank you, Ryan. Now let's turn to your weather across the nation. Here's Turfs Up Radio's own meteorologist, Abby Lancia.
Do it, Abby!
Hello everyone, this is Abby Lancia with Turfs Up Radio reporting your national weather forecast. Today is Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. We have some really pleasant fall weather in store for the next couple of days. Today we're seeing clear and sunny skies from the west coast to the east coast. Looking out west, it'll be 92 degrees in Sacramento, 80 degrees in Denver, and then going into the central region, Texas will be feeling temperatures in the high 80s today, Chicago coming in at 74 degrees. And then just absolutely beautiful along the East Coast, temperatures ranging from the low 70s to mid 80s with lots of sun. However, there is a small exception to this nice weather today. Looking to the north, starting off in the west and traveling east, we'll be seeing a small strip of showers starting in Washington, going all the way to northern Michigan. Missoula, Montana, only 47 degrees today, and it'll be a little overcast in Minneapolis, where it will be 64 degrees. We also have a chance again for some upper elevation snow in the Rockies, specifically in Wyoming. And that is it for today, everyone. This is Abby Lancia with Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Thank you, Abby. That's it for the latest in green industry news, weather, and sports. To hear more and get the daily updates sent to your phone, be sure to download the Turn podcast on your mobile device. That's Turn for Turf's Up Radio News. For Turf's Up Radio, I'm Steve Anthony for The Turn.
Replied here, said he's having great results. Color holds well. Just wondering how long we should expect those results. Again, I have no idea because there's not really a whole lot of information about it. But I'd say, man, if it's kicking with you, keep rocking with it. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You know, it being biodegradable, that tells you basically everything you need to know. And a lot of times when you're using these types of things, there's a certain amount of degradation that's going to take place relatively quickly, right? Even like, for instance, you know, one of the hooped up things that you hear about is like for instance, biochar is supposed to last like an incredibly long time, thousands of years and all this, blah, 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 blah. Well, not really. The realized benefits you see last maybe a year, maybe 2 years at the most. Outside of that, everything kind of returns back to normal. John Hoover is asking about the Carbon Earth phone number. Like I said at the top of the show, Carbon Earth is closed right now, and it will not be back until everything with the deal is finalized. So there is. I have no access to my email. You know, if you want to reach me by email, you can send me an email at thegrassfactor@gmail.com. But I have no control over that right now because that's back in the hands of the investors, and they're doing whatever they're doing with the new group. And right now, as far as I know, everything is totally shut down. Where was it? There were some other questions here. Yes. Okay. So do surfactants affect pre-emergence like prodiamine? Does it help or delay the soil contact? As a general rule of thumb, if you're going out with a surfactant like a non-ionic surfactant or a anionic surfactant, not really, no. If you wanted to use one of these products that's like a compatibility agent, right, that is going to help it remain in solution or dispersion, like a dispersing agent or something like that, that may help. But as a traditional surfactant that you're going and buying off the shelf, no, you would have to use like a very specific dispersing agent, right? So as a general rule of thumb, no, they will not increase the efficacy of prodiamine. There's lots of different interactions that can kind of take place there, so just do not expect it to really do much for you in that type of scenario. Now, it's not to say that you shouldn't run one. So, for instance, if you're applying prodiamine and three-way, that doesn't mean don't put a surfactant in there because you've got three-way in the mix. Yes, definitely do that, but you're not going to gain any added benefit by doing it, right? Another question here is a theoretical here. Do you think a urease inhibitor would suppress dog urine spots, like if applied to the spot your dog always pees? Kinda. That is assuming it is the urine, the urea in the urine that is causing the dog spot, right? And my argument to that would be, how do you know it's not the sodium in the dog's diet causing the urine spot? And kind of the other thing too, when you're applying a urease inhibitor, it is a urease blocker, right? So yeah, you could probably still get a little bit of urea that kind of kicks off on the front end, but for the most part, it's just blocking, is delaying the point at which the urea releases. So, if you wanted to apply one on, and go spray, squirt on top of the, what do you call it? The dog pee spot, right? Yeah, you could, but unless you get out there and try and dilute it away and wash it away and get it all out and brought down, remember, dilution is the solution to pollution in this type of scenario here. A lot of that is now all of a sudden is going to be protected and it's all going to release at one time. But again, this ain't so much a urea thing as it is a sodium thing. So as much as I'd love to tell you, yeah, 100% that's going to work for you, go for it. In reality, it's not really going to be able to do much for you because it's actually from the sodium. They should forward the Carbon Earth number to the HUMIC hotline. That's funny. Man, y'all are a trip with all that stuff y'all got going on over there, especially Kenny and the memes, man. That is some really, really funny stuff. Okay, so I've got where was this? Here we go. Let me actually take this down into a form where, Mr. Berger, I do not unveil your address here. I'm sure you're perfectly okay with me taking your address and just displaying it right out into the middle of the online world. But I don't want to do that to you, sir, whether you're okay with it or not. So let me clip that out, and then what I'm going to do is take a screenshot of your soil test, and I'm going to put it right here, front and center, for everybody to look at. Now, let me make sure. Okay, yep, that's right. So, taking a look at the soil test. Actually, do I need to blow that up a little bit? Would that help everybody if it's a little bit bigger that we can see? And this is one of those from Spectrum Analytics that is great, right? Because, you got this beautiful chart on it and it tells you all this stuff and, oh, yeah, man, it's good. And it makes generalized recommendations down there at the bottom where, hey, they're calling for 4 pounds of N and 2.9 pounds of K2O. And that you've got enough phosphorus. You don't have to worry about applying phosphorus. But again, remember, take all that with a grain of salt. And as a general rule of thumb, a good target to hit would be something like the 3x the MLSN is kind of a good target. And I can tell you that you are pretty close to 3x on the MLSN. So this recommendation here of applying basically a 4-to-3 N to K ratio, right? Your N to K ratio, 4-to-3. So if you apply whatever that is, 2 pounds of or 3 pounds of nitrogen, right? Then you're going to be applying somewhere around like 2.25 or 2.5 pounds of K. Not quite a 1-to-1. You're doing a 4-to-3 type scenario here. So basically 75% of the amount of K you apply, of the amount of N you apply is what you should be applying in K. And really, everything else looks kind of A-okay. Nothing really that I'm going to get excited about, right? And, they're telling you your calcium level may be a little low. Hell no. They're basing that off the BCSR, which is the top part where you see these percentages of K saturation and percentages of magnesium saturation and percentages of calcium saturation. Ignore all that, crumple it up in a ball, draw lines through it, whatever the case. Don't let it confuse you because it's not important. It is not important. What's important are these actual ppm values that they were able to deduce. And so you have a pH of 6.4, so I'm not even going to be worrying about messing with your pH at all. You got 126 parts per million of phosphorus. You really don't need to really apply any phosphorus unless you're doing like a major renovation. In terms of potassium, again, you're kind of right there at the line of where you should be. 100 parts per million is where I like to be on the low end of things, right? And as I start dipping closer to like 75, that's when I have a full-fledged panic attack. So as a general rule of thumb, you're not too far away there. So I definitely wouldn't skip applying potassium, but I would continue to apply at least half the amount of nitrogen you're applying. I would apply in K. So if you're applying 4 pounds in, I would apply at an absolute minimum 2 pounds of K. And, they make the recommendation here, 2.9 pounds of K2O if you're applying 4 pounds in, and I think that's a great generalized recommendation. You are a little bit low in sulfur at 9 parts per million, and let's take a look at this right here. And you would basically, we'll say you do apply 4 pounds of N, then you're going to require somewhere around 11 parts per million of sulfur for the year. So you are critically deficient for sulfur in this scenario. So I would look at, when you do apply potassium, applying something like potassium sulfate would be the one you would want to apply here because you're low in sulfur. In terms of your micronutrients, you're actually high in your micronutrients. So, could you make a few micronutrient applications through the course of the year? Yes. Is it going to hurt anything? No. Is it okay if you don't? Chances are, yeah, you'll be all right. In terms of the boron, you're at 0.3. We've talked about this before. There's never really been an observed boron deficiency in turf. So you can, if it's part of your if it's part of your mix that you're applying, part of your micronutrient mix, great. If it's not in there, should you get excited and go chase it and find a bunch of boron and go make boron specific applications? No. So if it's there, great. If it's not, nothing to sweat it. You shouldn't have a panic attack and try and go after it, in some sort of special method or methodology. It's just as a general rule of thumb, right? So, really, the big thing here that we've kind of deduced is continue applying nitrogen. When you are applying your potassium, make sure it's sulfate of potash, so you're also targeting your sulfur numbers. And if you apply a micronutrient mix, try and find one that has a little bit of boric acid in it or a little bit of boron. But if you can't find it, don't sweat it, and you're going to be all good. So pretty simple, pretty simple stuff there. I like that. I like the easy ones. Is Scott's GrubX, imidacloprid or something like that hard on earthworms? I got no more worms this year after using this spring, but I also used a curative treatment last fall. I think Scott's GrubX is the same one that is Acelyprin, right? And Acelyprin and earthworms. And I want to see. So you have a GrubX that's imidacloprid? Hang on, let me look at this. Scott's GrubX label. Where are these specifications? Product label, view label. This one contains chlorantraniliprole. Okay, that is okay. So it is imidacloprid. It's here. Let's do this. I'm gonna. I don't want to speak off kilter here. Yes, imidacloprid is toxic. I'm seeing here imidacloprid is toxic to earthworms. This is from NC State University. Carbaryl and imidacloprid are toxic to earthworms. So if you did use, if it ends in a prol, then that is Acelyprin. Acelyprin is not toxic to earthworms. If you used imidacloprid being the active ingredient, then imidacloprid is toxic to earthworms. If it contains one of the other active ingredients, like if it ends in a thrin can be a golly, what is the word I'm looking for? Can be toxic to earthworms as well. So, just be careful there, and I would search for the active ingredients. And just because you're not seeing them crawl out of the ground doesn't mean they're not there, right? And it's just an easy way to fact check yourself while you're walking through the store and you're picking up something and you're trying to decide whether or not you want to buy. Is take a look at the active ingredient right there on the label, type it into the Google sphere, and put earthworms at the end of it. and it'll be able to tell you whether or not it's going to be toxic to you or not. So just a real simple thing, so for instance, I typed in right here imidacloprid earthworms, and it gave me that information from NC State. We can type in acelepryn and earthworms, and here we've got Syngenta telling us exactly what to expect from it. Non-target earthworms is wait. No known adverse effects on beneficial or non-target organisms, including earthworms and honeybees. So yeah, there we go. I would, Ray, you say that, and I would worry about it if, for whatever reason, they're shallow. I guess if they're deep, they're fine. I've had a couple people reach out to me this year after an application of bifenthrin and having sidewalks completely covered in earthworms. I thought that was kind of interesting. They said that's the only thing they applied. They said. But we all know, you and I both know, that just because people say that doesn't mean there wasn't a whole host of other things that were applied. It can get a little, squirrel factor, it can get a little squirrely. All right, real quick, I got to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue on with the show. You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Wednesday night.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Hump night with the Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turfs Up Radio.
Hump day?
Do we have to put up with this? The Rock! The hard place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process? Then it's time you checked out the Geo Ripper 616. It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned Geo Ripper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the Geo Ripper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
All right, we're back. We're back. Getting all kinds of stuff sent to me right now. Where was I? Okay, so I had a question come in. We were talking about dwarf fescue the other day and varieties, particularly of dwarf fescue to use in high traffic areas. And the question was, hey Matt, during your last radio show you recommended a dwarf fescue for Northern Virginia area for a high traffic small kids play fence area. Any recommendations to seed I could take a look at? And here's the thing. Nothing really is out there in turn. It's not like you can go to the NTEP and filter everything by growth habit, right? So, and find these dwarf and semi-dwarf varieties. So I'll tell you, the easiest thing to do is to type in dwarf fescue NTEP is what I did, right? And it starts coming up with all these different types, right? So Amity, which was tested as CCR2 in the NTEP trial. It was developed at Rutgers, so I would say this would be a little bit better. It had excellent heat tolerance. That's always a good one. Indified enhanced, that's a good one. Salt tolerance, that's a good one. Darker green, medium leaf texture, high density, shade tolerant, high traffic recovery. That is a key one right there that you get. In terms of its growth height, you know, it's recommended at 2 inches. Is its recommended maintenance height. So, you know, that sounds like a good one. Amity. You can also, the second link here was they have an all pro turf blend from Pro Seed, which is ideal for heavy traffic. It doesn't say what turf varieties they have in there, but you know, that could be one. Falcon 5, one of the newer ones from Falcon, relatively. It's not that new. Is a dwarf type here. We have a fine lawn tall fescue, which is a double dwarf turf type. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is it's only 70% indified enhanced, so you open yourself up to a little increased susceptibility to insects and nematodes. All right, let's go down to the next one here. Pennington has one called Justice. That is a dwarf variety. We have one from Stover Seed, which is called Triple Crown Dwarf. Shade tolerant, no thatch, withstands heavy use in traffic. Sounds good. So that's I think that would be one of the easier ways to pack that up is to type in dwarf fescue NTEP, and you're going to see people start telling about how good their seed was and how well it performed. That are dwarf varieties as conducted in the NTEP trial, because the NTEP does not classify these as you know, whatever it is you're looking for. They don't classify them as dwarf varieties that you can go in and start cherry picking data, right? That's all. That's all. All right, we'll get back in here. I had another question here. It said Central Illinois temperatures in the upper 70s and a few cooler days. I applied Dithiopyr at a ½ ounce per 1,000. Next week is in the upper 60s. Will this stop anything that hasn't popped up or germinated yet? That's the whole idea. It is a pre-emergent. That is the whole premise. What already has popped up is what's popped up. And what hasn't popped up, that will do a good job of preventing it if that weed is susceptible to the herbicide Dithiopyr. Now, you have to remember, Dithiopyr is not going to have an effect on every weed that is out there. Remember, it's not going to have an effect on perennial weeds that are already in the lawn that are currently dormant. It's not magic. There are limits to all pre-emergence. So it's just something to keep in mind, yes, it will prevent a lot of things, but it's not going to be perfect. And then the other thing you have to keep in mind too, Matt, is the probability for resistance. You may be dealing with resistant weeds up there, and there's lots of weed resistant maps that are out there that you can take a look at and narrow down on which individual species of plants are actually have been discovered to be resistant, specific to. I would look at not just Dithiopyr as an active ingredient, but I would look at that whole mode of action, right? I think that's good. I think that's yeah. I would take a look at that. And those are the DNA herbicides, right? Your dinitroalanines are the ones you are looking for. I had another question here. Hey man, I saw you roll your own guide a couple years ago, and it's been great for saving money. However, I want to roll my own Escalade 2. How much of each ingredient should I add per acre? Here's the thing. With Escalade 2, you're not really going to save any money trying to roll your own. And then the other thing is trying to source these as active ingredients, trying to source straight 2,4-D, trying to source straight dicamba, trying to source straight fluroxypyr ain't the easiest. It's just as cost effective for you to go ahead and buy Escalade 2 as it is for you to try and roll your own. There's a few of them that it just doesn't come out any cheaper to roll your own, like Avenue South, for example. Any of these three-way herbicides that have, different ester-based formulations in it, chances are it's going to be cheaper in this scenario for you to go buy Escalade 2 and apply it. That's unfortunately just kind of the way you gotta approach it, right? So you can try it from every which way, and I can't remember what the trade names are of fluroxypyr. Dicamba's either Banville or Vanquish. I can't remember which one is labeled for turf. 2,4-D, there's lots of just straight 2,4-D esters that are out there, and so you can try it, but I promise you, you're not going to be saving the type of percentage points that you would be if you made your own Dismiss NXT or made your own Echelon or something like that. So just kind of a general rule of thumb there. Looking over here, we've got, what was this? Any opinion on GrubX versus Acelepryn for sod webworm control? I understand they have the same active ingredient. And Ray chimed in here and said liquid, spraying Acelepryn is going to work as a liquid, but you may get it in a water dispersible granule, whatever the case may be. But sprayed Acelepryn is going to work way better. And I agree 1,000%. Granular insecticides, granular fungicides, I'm telling you right now, the faster you can get away from it, the better. They're trash. And the reason why is that there's going to be, for instance, even with the Acelepryn, there is some contact immediate control that is involved there. And people can argue with me and tell me it's not, but I'm telling you, I've seen it firsthand with the Acelepryn have some contact or ingestive type of immediate control that takes place that you can get out of a liquid that you're not going to get out of a granular. Kind of the same thing when you spray azoxystrobin versus spreading. I see all these people spreading Disease X and they're wondering why they still have disease. Well, it's because you spread Disease X and you didn't spray it. There is just a competitive advantage to applying those materials as a liquid than distributing very small amounts across the surface of a granule and then relying on water to water it in, and then you have to rely on the systemic activity of it, right? And how effective is it going to be after it moves through the root system in order to be absorbed through the root system and then distributed throughout the plant? It's not the same deal as if it coats the entirety of the leaf and then has to move down within the plant and then up within the plant, right? And that is one of those things you have to keep in mind is some products are going to move better going up. Some products are going to move better going down. Some products are not going to move at all. And instead of having to guess at which one of those active ingredients are going to work, it just makes more sense to spray it as a liquid and be done with it. You may feel better, it may be easier, whatever the case may be, but in reality, it's not going to give you any competitive advantage in terms of efficacy, right? It's not going to be more effective to go out with a granular. You're sacrificing efficacy for ease of application. If you're okay with that, if you're okay with less results for an easier application, okay, go with it. If you don't want to sacrifice the results, surely to goodness, do not be putting down a granular insecticide or a granular fungicide. In my experience, you may have different experience that may have you that may give you a different outlook on things, but I've never ever been satisfied with a granular insecticide or any granular pesticide at all. Are sod webworms the ones that turn into moths? Any of those caterpillars turn into moths. You'll see your army worms turn into moths. If it's a caterpillar that's feeding on your grass or cutworms, they all turn into moths. So if they're down there, go ahead and you gotta give it the old 1-2 punch. It's funny. Tiffway Lawn said, but when the grass comes back, after they eat the grass, when the grass comes back, it looks amazing. That is true. The timing of it is poor, but when it does come back, it does look on fire. And it's one of those things too that boy, let me tell you, it can really make you look like a hero if you come in at the right time and within a 3-day period their whole lawn has been completely devoured and oh, my lawn's dead. What do I do? I don't know what to do. And you get out there and you're like, oh, I don't know. Let me I'll give it an old college try here on this one. I just can't make any guarantees. And you put down your insecticide and you put down your fertilizer and it just comes back, fills in absolutely beautifully. And boy, they're real impressed with your knowledge. They're real impressed with what you're able to achieve. And you go home a happy person. And chances are you're going to get a tip at some point that Christmas for whatever it is you did to fix that. And it's one of those things, It depends on the timing of it, though. Ray said, the lawn looks bad for a long time for him. And here's the thing is, that's right, Aldo. The thing is, that depending on the timing of the appearance of the armyworms, right? So if they're earlier in the season, so like August, September timeframe, you still got a recovery window for you to get it back. But if they come in late, like October timeframe, chances are it's probably not going to come back, or you'll get this half-ass attempt that comes back, and then you're kind of it just never does. And then it kind of struggles when it comes out of dormancy the next year too, because it goes dormant with a lot of that carbohydrate reserve already tapped into to try and push out as much growth as possible leading into dormancy. So you can get a little tomfoolery there and squirrely count number 2. You get a little squirrely with what you end up seeing. And Ray, you mentioned also here Dialox. I forgot about Dialox. Dialox is the only granular insecticide that I would give credence to. There may be a few more. Carbaryl I've had good luck with too. The 7 granules. So there are a couple of them. But when you're going after some of these newer active ingredients like Acelepryn, like azoxystrobin, especially fungicides, stop spreading granular fungicide. Just don't do it. I know it looks good and it feels good. Just don't do it. I know it's azoxystrobin and it may be the best thing you have at your disposal, but if you use it and it doesn't work, you just have to accept it that you're using a granular fungicide, and that's as good as you can get. Here's the other thing too. If you've been doing like 4 or 5, 6 applications a year of Disease X, there's also a very high probability of the disease becoming resistant to the disease is becoming resistant to the active ingredient you're applying. That's happening more and more too. I know for a fact. Real quick, I gotta take a break. You're listening to Turfs Up Radio. By the way, tonight,
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Hump Night with the Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turfs Up Radio.
Hump day?
Do we have to put up with this? The Rock! The hot place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turfs Up Radio. Turfs Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
Hey everybody, this is Hecubus from the Nightcap. I'm just sitting here relaxing within the vault with my friends and a tasty, tasty pint. You should stop by and listen in sometime. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, live only on Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
All right, we're back, and let's see here. Okay. This is a question I had in. Mr. Gill wrote to me and said, have you ever used milk that has soured on Zorja? I have Zorro Zorja, and I'm interested in the calcium. And simply put, no, I never have. And I don't know anybody who has. And what I do know about milk is, I'm looking at a label right here. And in 1 cup, so we'll say 1 quart, we have 1,220 milligrams. And as a general, let's see here, 1,220 milligrams of milk. In terms of actually how much calcium you're applying with this, it's not really that much unless you were spraying milk concentrate at gallons per acre. I mean, gallons per 1,000 square feet, right? Yes. Is it going to give you any kind, if you're legitimately trying to raise your calcium levels, it's probably not the way to do it. There's way more cost effective methods to bring it up, and all those talking about the fat in the milk. It would not be my first choice. And how much in it? 9 grams out of 976 grams. So 1% of it roughly is going to be fat. Is that enough to cause any kind of real accumulation? Probably not. At only 1%. It's not like these 16 and 18% fat licks we see in the Jason Traylor said he wants fat grass. It's likely not going to give you the kind of result you're looking for. It may make you feel good, and if you want to just really recycle it, by all means, you certainly can. It's not that much calcium in it in terms of actually being a viable nutrient source for plants. I wouldn't do it. There's better ways to handle that, pouring it out or whatever the case may be. If you just have a real hard idea that you just gotta do it, you can. You're not going to kill anything. You're not going to hurt anything. It's just you're not going to make anything better either. So, take it for what you will. Do with it what you want. But at the end of the day, I mean, that's just really all you're going to get. It's just a stinky yard. Just a stinky yard. Also, kind of some interesting things. I'm going to go into more detail here as I'm learning about this, but a research assistant, PhD research assistant, reached out to me and has been he's been looking at different ways to kind of look at aeration. This is kind of an interesting thing he sent me here. He said, you're probably sick of my emails. Actually, David, I am not sick of your emails at all. These are the type of emails that I absolutely love. He said, but I've been working on exploring the topic of compaction and posting about it on the Lawn Forum, thelawnforum.com. For those of y'all that are out there, you can check that out. That's always a good, fun little nightly read type deal there. If you're bored, take a look at the thread. I think what I have found is that the penetration testing only gives part of the story. Bulk density is kooky. The equation is based on comparing density and porosity to rock. So micro and macro porosity are being combined. I did some bulk density tests where I compared the undisturbed core volume to the same soil compacted manually. Conventional methods show 50% porosity for my soil, macro and micro, when compared to the compacted. I have 25% porosity, which is more plausible and is mostly macro, I suppose. The topic is interesting, and I think it's more complex than most people think. I think that is a great, and he actually has put together a series of tests that he's doing here to kind of compare these things. And he's actually doing, pretty good approaches. And the interesting thing here, and I talked about this, I believe, on Sunday, is we were discussing the rates, the intervals at which, if we are trying to ensure that more of the water we apply is actually perked into the ground versus running off, and what those cycles need to be in order to ensure that the most amount of percolation actually takes place in our soil, that one of the interesting things he uncovered here is that repeated perk tests in the same area slowed the infiltration rate of water. So as you extrapolate that out in terms of trying to time your intervals between your irrigation, and say you're trying to get down half an inch of water, right? What is the interval spacing between watering one and watering two for you to do that? You have to take into account that your absorption rate, your percolation rate on your infiltration rate on your second and third cycle, however many cycles it takes to get it down, your percolation rates on those are actually going to be decreased. So in order to maximize the rate of infiltration with the absorption capacity of your soil, you're going to have to stair-step down the length of time of your zones in order to ensure that it all does actually infiltrate the ground and not run off, because your infiltration rate is going to slow down the more water you put into it, right? That porosity, the macro and micro porosity, is slowly becoming filled up with that water taking up that pore space, and as a result, you're kind of left with no real space for liquid to go and be stored. it's kind of an interesting thing, and I'm going to dive deeper into this and do some reading on it, because I'm sure the majority of this has been researched before, and I just don't know the answers to this off the top of my head. I have to say this, that in turf school, these are not the kinds of things you learn. So it's interesting to see it, especially from his standpoint, knowing he's a researcher and a good researcher, and not one like me, who I would consider a redneck researcher. So, you know. Hey. But it's good. I'm glad it's being done, and I'm going to take a look at it. What else? There was also another email here I saw that was a lot of fun. Nope, I can't talk about that one on air. That's for sure. That's always kind of some interesting stuff. I don't know. We'll see. I might get around to that one day or another. We'll try and figure that out. I'm seeing a lot of people reach out to me right now about rust. And so I think it's good that we just go ahead and address this, right? And if you are out and you're cutting lawns, or you're walking through lawns while you're spraying lawns, and all of a sudden you kind of feel like, is the grass a little orange? Is it a little orange? Or you look down after you treat a lawn and you're rolling your hose up, and your boots have what looks like rust powder on the edges of your boots. Chances are you've been treating properties that are infected with a disease called rust. And the rust you actually see that accumulates on your boots or on your mower decks, or whatever the case may be, those are the spores of the disease, right? And here's a couple of things I just want to highlight about it, right? Number one, do you have to treat rust with a fungicide? No. Should you treat rust with a fungicide? Probably not. Probably not. Can you treat rust with a fungicide? Yes. Is it going to be so effective for you that you feel like it was money well spent? Probably not. If you have a very extended cool season where you never really break out of the trend for rust, maybe then would be a good time to do it. So I think about like Ray, who goes through this extended brown patch period from November all the way through March, where nothing ever really goes dormant. It just stays cool and just cool and cloudy and wet. In that instance, yeah, I would probably be a little more apt to do it. Here's the thing. Especially if you have like Bermuda grass right now and you get a little rust on it, it's about to go dormant. It's not going to kill your Bermuda grass. Your tall fescue, it's probably not too far away from its first frost. You start getting a frost or two on your grass, your rust is going to go away. One of the things you have to keep in mind when you get these diseases, and I'm saying it all the time right now because I see people still so trigger happy on fungicides right now. We're real trigger happy, like, oh, discoloration, oh, fungicide. I got a little rust. I'm going to shoot it with some fungicide. They got two guns out right now, and they are unloading magazines in the air right next to their ears. Before you combat disease this time of year, I'm going to say it again, just take it into consideration. Think about these things before you act. If you do not have the growth to grow out the damaged turf, a fungicide is not going to be doing much for you. Just keep that in mind. If you have enough growing season left, it's still growing vigorously, you got no problem. You're putting on an inch a week, an inch and a half a week that you're cutting off. Good deal. I get it. I support it. I high five you. I'm taking a look at some of these growth probabilities that I'm seeing right now. And, for instance, about where I'm at right now, my growth probability, I'm slowing down to about 40% right now. About 40% of my monthly growth potential. That has slowed pretty significantly, right? Compared to where I was last month, where I was at like 98%, right? It has slowed a lot. So I'm not getting a lot of that violent, vigorous upward growth right now. So if I went and applied a fungicide on my lawn, chances are it's not going to grow out those damaged leaves before it entirely stops growing. Maybe it would be gone by December. And I'm going to be like, the damnedest thing. I applied fungicide. I sprayed it 15 freaking times. And you know it didn't go away until December. Can you believe that? This fungicide is trash. Propiconazole is trash. Azoxystrobin is trash. You insert, trifloxystrobin, trash. Picrostrobin, trash. That's my point, is just think twice about these things. Take everything into consideration before you choose to do these. Here's another great question, and I think this plays right in line with it. I was able to order some sedgehammer. They shipped it to me in Canada. My question is, should I treat my nutsedge now, or should I wait till spring? And I think this is really easy to answer. I would definitely wait till next spring, especially in Canada. Because I'd say you've already had a couple frosts right now. And here's the thing, is you may still see the nutsedge in your yard, but as long as you've had a frost, it's pretty much toast. And there ain't no way you're going to be able to get that herbicide into the plant after you've had that frost. The damage is done. The damage is done. It ain't going to make its way in. It's just not going to happen. So in that instance, it just doesn't make sense to me. Like here in Knoxville, where I'm at in Knoxville, typically October 31st, I have my first frost somewhere around October 31st. Happens every year. And I mean, or at least over the last 4 or 5 years. That is about when it's going to be there. Here, it's October 14th. If I'm dealing with crabgrass, what is the likelihood of me going up and mixing a backpack full of quinclorac and going and making an application right now, knowing in 2 weeks I'm going to have a frost and it's all going to die? That's all you need, even if it warms up after the fact. Lushy, what are you doing? What are you doing, Lushy? What are you doing, Lushy? Is that a road soda? By the way, road soda, over the last driving trips we have, and road soda has been the hit. That's all everybody talks about. Road sodas. That's some inside baseball there. A little phone call Lushy and I had. So no, I would not be trying to spray anything that's on the verge of going dormant, because once you have that first frost, say you have a frost, guess what? It's going to toast it. It's done. It ain't coming back. And say it warms up after that, and then it warms back up. It's going to be in the 60s to 70s and hanging out there or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's fine. I had that one frost I needed that's going to kill all those. There's still no reason for me to go back and do it. Well, I only have 1 day at 32. That's all I needed, was 1 day at 32. That is all I need. That is all I need. I said, what if I don't get frost and the grass, dwarf fescue, doesn't go dormant in winter but slows down in growth? Should I still slam it with nitrogen before winter? Slam it is debatable, but yes, absolutely, because the reason why, hang on, let me explain to you why in that scenario 100% I would. And the reason why I would is, from a professional standpoint, I want to make sure that I have the greenest lawn on the block at the start of next season. I have to have that because I'm charging a premium for my service. And I'm going to charge more than other people. And the reason why is because if you're my customer, you are going to have a lawn that is greener than the other companies that are going to be out here. And it's going to be very obvious which lawns are my lawns in your neighborhood. Nobody's going to be able to debate it that, those are the ones Matt's been taking care of. Here we are. It's February 15th. The damn things look like green giants out there. I don't know what he puts on. He's cheating somehow, some way. And the reason why is because so many people get nervous about applying nitrogen there. But what you have to take into account is that nitrogen is very stable in cold weather. Especially something that doesn't leach very well, like ammonium sulfate. You're talking about different charges on your ions there. And it's not going to leach very well, so it's going to hang there and be patient for you. Where, say you do have a couple days where you spike up into the 70s, right? You may only had 3 days where you hit up in the 70s and it was January, but you got those 3 days. Well, guess what? On the days when it's in the 70s and you get a little bit of soil warmth, it's going to start triggering those processes in the plant, right? It's going to want to start to wake up, take a big, deep breath. And what if when you take that big, deep breath, it's got lots of oxygen in the air to just really charge things? Well, in this instance, it's going to have lots of nitrogen there. When it takes this big, deep breath from the soil and pulls up this water, and man, that nitrogen's there, and voila! And it's going to be putting off new growth, and it's going to be beautiful, dark green, beautiful, fresh, new start of the year growth. And you may get cold again after that, and it may not grow much. But you got just enough nitrogen to give you that big color response that is going to set you apart from everybody else. So, in my opinion, that is a non-negotiable application for me. It may not be for you, and I get it. I totally get it. Not everybody has to have the same, approach or application schedule or whatever the case may be. But for me, I have to be the best. You can call it competitive. You can call it toxic male syndrome, whatever you want to call it. But I have to have it green before everybody else. Therefore, if I know of a way to achieve that, then bloop, I'm going to execute by any means necessary. Stability. Winter soil stability is a positive thing. And if you can use it to your advantage, especially with anions, that's one of the ones that can work for you. You're worried about dwarf fescue causing thatch next spring. Dwarf fescues are not thatchy grasses. They are not going to produce thatch. If it was a Kentucky bluegrass up in the Pacific Northwest and an older cultivar, yeah, there's a potential for it. Would it cause thatch next spring? No, definitely not. Not in a single winter application. If you're applying, say, up to a pound of N, no, that's not going to contribute to some sort of massive amount of thatch buildup because of that one application. No way, no, not how, not ever. Especially with dwarf fescue, which is going to be one of the least thatchy grasses that are out there. Really, any fescue variety except for fine fescues, which aren't real grasses. Those are just trash. I'm sorry, I did not mean to say that to my friends in North Dakota. Evan, I am so sorry I said that. But fine fescue is not a real grass. If yours got thatch, you send me, it sounds like lawn debris, more so than thatch. Send me some pictures of that. We'll take a look at it and see what we come up with here. All right, real quick, I'm going to take one more break, and we'll come back. We'll do one more segment, and then we're going to have to call it. I know we're having fun, but we need a little bit more time for fun. You're listening to Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Wednesday night.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is?
Hump Night with the Duck. 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern. Only on Turf's Up Radio.
Hump day?
Do we have to put up with this? The Rock! The hard place!
You're not the top.
Did I say something wrong?
The Duck. On Turf's Up Radio. Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey everybody, this is Hecubus from the Nightcap. I'm just sitting here relaxing within the vault with my friends and a tasty, tasty pint. You should stop by and listen in sometime. I'm here every Monday through Friday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern, live only on Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
Hey, landscape pros, are you tired of digging through rocks and roots and breaking shovels in the process that it's time you checked out the Geo Ripper 616? It's a landscaper's dream with the Makita 6 Series 2-cycle engine producing over 4 horsepower of raw performance. The 616 digs deep in up to 16 inches of the toughest soils. Lighting, landscape, and irrigation contractors already love this improved lightweight trencher with its ability to get in and get out faster, easier, and with less ground disturbance. And you will too. This redesigned Geo Ripper 616 comes with 2 heavy-duty digging chains and a whole mess of helpful extras. To learn more about the Geo Ripper and how it can help you out in the field, visit georipper.com today.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. The morning show, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. And keeping up with Mr. Jones, Mondays at 6 to 8 p.m. Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together. Turf's Up Radio. Your industry, your station.
All right, we're back. All I'll say here, does it matter if I do or don't collect clippings on a rye overseed on Bermuda grass? As far as nutrients or thatch when I go to scalp, clippings are not going to contribute to thatch. Clippings actually break down pretty well. Now, what you don't want to do when you're scalping something like that, I mean, you're just absolutely burying it. I get it, right? Then go ahead and collect it and then discard it. You have to remember that is nutrient removal, so you're not going to be recycling those nutrients. So it's just something to keep in mind that you know is the case. So just be mindful of that and expect that you will have to replace them. It is what it is, and that's just the way it goes. But because you don't want to bury it, you don't want to smother things, right? That's the big thing, is that you don't want to smother things. And that can be, when you start smothering your grass, that can be a bit of an issue, right? Because you're inhibiting gas exchange and access to light, and that gets to be a problem, right? Not necessarily the fact that there's grass clippings down, but it's everything else that you end up losing because of that. I can tell you what I do have coming up. I'm going to be having so I've had more and more people reaching out to me about the shortage of phosphorus in the world. So I'm gonna go ahead and prepare something that's pretty in depth about the phosphorus and the phosphorus scare that we have, and because already here comes more and more hit pieces that I'm seeing coming out left and right and up and down, and all this stuff that we're all killing the planet through usage of phosphorus. And I have to say, while it is important to be mindful and conscious and appropriate and responsible with our phosphorus applications, the fact that we are magically going to run out of it is absolutely insane. That is just not accurate. It's a scare tactic. It's a fear tactic, and it's not the truth. So, yeah, there we go. One of the MySoil folks coming on, I don't know. I have a feeling I got emailed at my Carbon Earth email, and I do not have access to it. So I'm trying to get more information from that so I can get back in contact with them and have that. So I don't know. Best way to improve clay soil, get something growing on it. That's all. All you have to do is get something growing on it, and magically it takes care of itself. BWO did a video on the root cycling effect, and you can there's lots of things to take into consideration when we're talking about the root cycling effect, but really that is the best way to improve clay soil. Things like gypsum or any other method or madness that's out there to improve clay soil, no, it's secondary to, all of it is secondary. First off, gypsum does not work, period. And then it's really everything else, use organic matter or whatever the case may be, is kind of secondary to having plants grow on it, right? So if you get plants growing on it and you're fertilizing it with an organic matter, that can kind of work to your advantage because you've got this nice, gentle, moving of natural growth. I got to be careful how I word that. It's starting to sound silly. It's using organic matter, and oftentimes can be an appropriate way to apply effective amounts of nutrients, right? In good ratios and good amounts, and therefore that's why you get such a more positive. Now, biosolids can be a bit debatable because you're starving the plant of phosphorus with it, but other manure sources are going to be pretty close to a 1-1-1 ratio, and therefore that's why you tend to see such the large response that you do from it. Now, there's also some water holding capacity things that go along with it too that can improve it, but as a general rule of thumb, that's why you see that as a recommendation. But first and foremost, in order for anything else to work, you have to get something growing on it. It's the whole premise behind no-till agriculture, right? And no-till agriculture isn't something that was just made up and established, kind of like the root cycle effect isn't just something I dreamed up. The whole premise behind it is no-till agriculture, right? And the whole premise behind there is using the root system to your advantage to improve soil conditions to be more conducive for the development of your plants, right? And what's more conducive for the development of your plants is having a soil structure that is going to be less restrictive towards the development of a root system. So this is kind of a real simple, easy way to go about it. I put it in video format. It's called the root cycling effect that you can look up, and it just is a good way to do it. And in terms of stimulating root growth, yeah, that's one of those times where you can use humic, and it makes perfect sense in that scenario that you're trying to capitalize on the auxins, especially if you're running it with something along the lines of a kelp too. Again, you're promoting root growth there. If you want to go the peptide route, you can do that too, and grow some explosive roots, and that's going to work well with you too. So however you choose to get there, whatever you choose to do is kind of just icing on the cake. But what's most important is that you get something growing on it, and then pay attention to the agronomics. If you get your NPK right and get something growing on it, chances are the tit for tat dollar that you're going to be investing in it and the other things that you're going to be using is really just a relatively a small amount compared to just getting something growing on it and using good agronomics. Thank you, Cat Bird Feeder. I appreciate that. I've been working on my radio voice here. All right, everybody. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I love you all. We'll catch you on the flip side.